Welcome to Fridays at 4 on twitch.tv/DDOstream. I'm DDO's community manager, Cordovan, and I'll be with you for the next hour answering some questions, talking a little bit about what we have going on inside of the office and outside in the game. I will also be playing the game. I'm probably going to be doing some Isle of Dread questing here today. I talked last week about, and you saw, my need for a few more named items and a little bit better gear on my character here on Orient. So I want to do some of that work, and I'm going to do a little bit of it on stream by just running some Isle of Dread stuff here. So I think that's what we'll be doing game-wise today. Hope you're having a good weekend. We've got, at least in the United States, for a whole bunch of people, we have Monday off for Martin Luther King Day here in the United States. So our DDO bonus days is a strength and numbers boost of 5%, includes parties and raid groups. So you can get up to 55% bonus XP from running raids, or, less than that, 25% from being in a party throughout Monday, being shut off on Tuesday morning Eastern time. So we get an extra day there, and that is pretty cool. Looking forward to it. I would expect to see in the very near future Severlin and or Tolero join me, but we're not doing it this week. We just ran out of time and too many other things happening inside of the office to make it happen this week. But next week we have plans for the other game, and we're also in process of talking about when to have a Q&A live stream on the DDO stream side. I don't know if it's going to be next week. I don't know if it's going to be on my show, or maybe we're just going to kind of do a separate one-off for it on a time that makes sense. But it's in process. It's in process. And so is the producer's letter. And that's the other big bit that got a bunch of work done on the community side this week is, a document's been being in the formative stages for a little while now. But it should be just about ready. Not quite as ready as it could be, but it's almost ready to get sent out to all the various people who need to take a look at it and make sure that they have had a chance to see it before we say it live and all the rest. So I would expect to hear more about the producer's letter in the coming weeks, and it should be out sooner rather than later. I can't speculate at this point about how long the various kind of heads up and approvals process will take. I can't exactly say how long it's going to take to maybe do a graphic or something that we want to do. We're going to have to see. We're going to have to see in terms of the exact timing here, but it's coming along pretty well, and quite a bit of progress was done on it this week. So I'd expect to see the producer's letter in the near future. Other things, though, that are happening as well is we are getting ready, as I mentioned last week, we are getting ready to have our first Lamania for update 58, roughly update 58. I don't think it's going to have a lot of 58 stuff in it, except for a couple of new things to take a look at that we'll have in our Lamania notes next week. I don't know if I can really... Can I break the news on it? I don't know. So we'll have the... I should have thought about this more beforehand. All right. Let me think here. Yeah, so next week we'll be looking at least one or more of a couple of new archetypes that'll be coming to the game here, planned release of U58. And that'll be the main focus, is on those archetypes for next week's Lamania. The week following, starting on the 25th, we're going to have a game patch. That'll be update 57 patch 2, mostly going to include like new rewards for snow peaks and a few other bits from the development process as well, so kind of bug fixes and polish and that sort of thing. And so that's set to go out on January 25th in U57.2. Snow Peaks will also go live that day, so once we come back up with 57.2, Snow Peaks should be active, and that'll be pretty cool. I know another thing that has been in the works is when are we going to be doing free character transfers to Sarlona and Orion, and I've said previously that one of the big sticking points in terms of us being able to deliver an ETA for you is the resolution of the problem that was causing these transfer problems to begin with. And I'm happy to report that at least internally, we think we've got it. We think we found it. And an engineer did some work this week. We've got a check-in. It's being worked through the build process right now. And assuming all that checks out and works out in the coming weeks, we should be in a position probably sometime in early February here to open that free transfer period for something like a couple of weeks. And then, but we'll have more specific timing and dating on that as we get closer to it. We need to make sure that the thing we think is doing the thing that we want it to do is doing the thing that we want it to do. And once that gets done and gets out live, and frankly, we probably check it live first just to double, triple check to make sure it's actually doing what we intend. And then we'll be announcing the formal slate of from here to here, we'll have free transfers to Sarlona and Orion. Not long after that is the end of Hardcore Season 7. That is set to end at 2 p.m. on February 7th. So we'll have more information about the Hardcore after party there. I would expect it to last... I don't know what do I have for dating here. Yeah, roughly a month. Roughly a month in terms of the time to get your stuff off Hardcore. And we'll have more information, specific dating on that as we get closer to it. Of course, next month is all full of stuff that I can't talk about now because we have, like, Update 58. We have the anniversary event. We've got our anniversary. By that, we are going to get the producer's letter out at the very least in February, I say now. And then we're also full speed ahead on not just our plans for February, but beyond at this point. And you'll be reading more about that in the producer's letter here. So quite a bit to talk about, but most of it is still in process on this Friday afternoon. So I can't reveal the details of it today. But as you can see, we've been talking a lot about a lot of the hot button issues in our calendar and what can we say and how much can we say and are we committing to and what have you. So we've got quite a bit that should be being released here in the coming weeks and a lot to look forward to in the game in Dungeons & Dragons Online, like Snow Peaks, Lamania next week looking at a couple of new archetypes, and other bits in 57.2 in addition to other stuff as well. So we got a lot. We got a lot going on. We really do. This weekend, though, is pretty chill. Nice XP boost through Monday. So there we are. Yeah, I suppose that's the other big topic of the week remains the VIP program. I don't have new news to provide with you today other than to say that it has very much been a topic of conversation inside of the office this week. Your feedback on the end of our promotional period at the end of 22 for the VIP gold rolls and your desire to have us talk more about the VIP program. I can't announce changes to the VIP program today. All that stuff is still being discussed. We think the value of the VIP program remains high, even without this, limited duration promotional benefit. And we always want to make sure that we're providing the most benefit that we can to our players. So when we hear from you that, either bring back the gold rolls or bust, essentially, that's feedback that we're paying close attention to and we're discussing internally. But because we're talking about changes to our subscription program, that's not something you just sort of off the cuff speculate about on a live stream, especially when people are hungry for information that they're going to commit you to. So if I were to say something today about what we might or might not do with VIP, that would be quite inappropriate, and it would set an expectation that we were or were not doing a thing, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to make things worse by promising things that can't be promised. So, but I would expect to see us talk a little bit more about it in the near future. I imagine someone's going to ask Sev about it in our upcoming Q&A, and he'll just have to be prepared to answer that one for you. So. Oh, I don't think... Yeah, Tolero isn't that shy. It's true that I haven't had her on the live stream a whole bunch, but we could totally do that. So we'll get that done. In addition to Sev Tolero, is there any chance we could get more facts with Knockback or Nobob or whomever? Those were some of the more interesting videos for Isle of Dread, and you would like to see more of folks like them. I agree, that sounds great. I imagine as we get near toward our upcoming major releases, we will indeed be hearing from some of these folks in the future. I know of a few plans in the works that I wouldn't want to let slip today about what we might be able to do in terms of pretty cool community presentations and things like that. But I can't really break the news on that today. But we too have been thinking it's like, it'd be really cool to get so and so on to talk about X. I happen to know that Torque is in process to do an interview with a streamer here in the near future about the raid secret, for example. I know that, we're thinking about, well, what should we do for this upcoming PAX East? COVID is, at the moment at least, seems to be in a state where community gatherings might continue to make sense. So can we do something for March for the PAX East this year? And I think the answer is going to be yes on that, but stay tuned in terms of information about what we might be able to do around that time frame. But yes is the answer. If not on this regular weekly show, then certainly as we get closer to our next big content releases, we're going to have people on to talk about it. But in the short term here, we are going to have Sev on here in the coming weeks. I don't know if it's going to be like next Wednesday. Probably not next Friday because we have something else going on. Maybe the week after that. But the week after that, it feels like it might be too late. So we actually were talking about it this morning in terms of the timing and trying to work through everyone's schedules. And it's a little tricky, but we'll see what we can get done here in the coming days. Hopefully, Air Maiden, you're saying Sarlona equals mega server. Hopefully this won't create a mega server situation. If it does, well, we'll have to react to it. Hopefully that won't happen. Do I think some people will consolidate their long sets of daily dice acquisitions on a particular server? Maybe. Yeah. That'll probably happen. And I do think, and this isn't necessarily a bad thing at all, I do think we'll see some groups who right now are playing on a couple different worlds maybe consolidate on one of these game worlds and what have you. But hopefully most folks are pretty happy where they are. And if not, well, they're going to get a chance to either go to Orient or Sarlona for free. But I think we'll find that in the coming weeks that most folks are going there because they want to be there for a specific reason. And then a little mix of, hey, this is an opportunity, let's jump on it. And that's fine, but that is ultimately why we need to make it a limited duration thing, rather than, say, leave it open for months or something like that. We're talking weeks here. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know, something in the range of 2 to 3 weeks. And the reason for that is because if we leave it open long term, as we see when you've got a recommended world, if we don't change it, sometimes we can have some population issues there. Too many people coming in versus the other game worlds. So this will be open for a couple weeks, and then it'll be turned off. And that's in part to prevent the inevitable mega server that would be created were we to leave free transfers open to specific worlds indefinitely or too long. I think the answer is yes, Glassjaws. Our current expectation, based on the work done as early as late this morning Eastern Time, is that we would be able to have this free transfer period window hopefully open on or slightly before the after party for Season 7. But, of course, transfers from hardcore are free wherever, so doesn't really matter that much on hardcore. But I do think in terms of the timing, it'll be roughly around the same time frame. Depending. I mean, depends, right? We haven't... It could be that the check-in doesn't work out, and then we have to reconsider. But at least as of today, that's what's going on. I'm going through chat. Any hint on new Snow Peak stuff? There is not a new challenge this year, but is new loot, and we'll have more information about that in the release notes for for 57.2. There's a lot of chat. People have a lot of things to say about what I just said. Oh no. No, it's fine. Anything on bank search by level not working, with some items appearing as level 1 items when they are higher level items. A fix is to drag the item in and out of the inventory back to the bank to fix it, but you need to know that it is broken in the first place to do that. You're correct. So the way that works is because the item is in a somewhat disassociated state in the bank. Either the item has been updated in a subsequent patch and it can't go back and change that reference in place. It has to be pulled to the inventory, then it gets its information, then when you put it back, then it can get filtered. There's even some very old loot. If you have things in the shared account bank from years and years ago, prior to us doing some of the updated bank work, some of that is still in a somewhat disassociated state. So what you generally need to go back, just put it into your inventory and then put it back in shared storage, and that is the intended fix. It would be very difficult on a system side to figure out how to populate, it's not broken stuff, but stuff without all of its proper metadata, without under the current system. It just doesn't really know how to do that. So the easiest fix is just pop it into your inventory and back. And generally, the reason it's less of an issue, and it still work, but the reason it's a little bit less of an issue is typically if you have a level 32 item, it doesn't look like a level 1 item. You know, level 1 items don't give you 14 strength or whatever. So you can just say, oh, that's wrong, and do it that way. But I know it's an inconvenience. It is unfortunately the bones of which the game is wrought. So I'm not sure there's too much we can do beyond that. Why is the sort by level reading as 1 to 30 instead of 1 to 32? That's probably because whoever did the UI update work did not plug in the expansion to Isle of Dread from the sorting menu. So someone's just going to have to go back in and add in level 31 and 32 to that sort by table. I'm going to actually make a note of that to make sure we have a task on it if we do not. Will we ever be able to glamour rune arms? In the past few updates, the rune arms have started to look awesome. There's some technical challenges in being able to specifically do a cosmetic of a rune arm. You'd think that as long as you were okay with it just still being on artificers, that you could figure out a way to do that. But it has to do with the way that cosmetics are for... the way the cosmetic slot system works, it has a really hard time with rune arms. It's not an impossible task, but it's not an insignificant task as well. I wouldn't want to speculate as to whether it might be some functionality we could bring to the game in the future? I think we could, but someone's going to have to want to do a whole bunch of work to make it happen. Well, good news. If you want more Kobold Sentient Gems, you don't have too much longer to wait. No, Titan. Any recent controversy involving Wizards of the Coast and their open gaming license has absolutely nothing to do with DDO. We are a completely separately licensed group from all that. So that has no bearing on our business, our license, our ability to develop the game, our communications with licensors, etc. It's totally separate subject. Nothing to do with us. All right. Well, hey, gosh, I somehow managed to fill 24 minutes here. Let me go in game if I can. Also, where's my game client? My game capture is also not... Oh, there we go. Okay. Huh. I've been having some kind of problem where my sources are not persisting in OBS. Do we have any power users of OBS who might have an answer as to why every time I start OBS, the game capture and my webcam just simply don't display? The only way I can get it to display is to go in. I was able to get it done once by restarting OBS, and then I have to take that specific input from that one scene over on the Lotro side to copy it over and to get my webcam working in other scenes. It's causing me headaches. I don't know if there are any OBS experts out there who are like, oh yeah, you need to do the and then it works. But it's been a pain, because that means every time I restart OBS, I've got to reset up all my stream elements. The reason I'm using OBS is because I had been using XSplit, but in recent months there was some kind of issue specifically with our DDO game client and XSplit, where it was causing just unforgivable lag and framiness in a way that I haven't been able to resolve. So instead of resolving it, I moved to OBS. A Hawthorne Sentient Gem. We typically do not do specific character sentient gems. There's the sentient gem system is not intended to reproduce a specific character. You're not a specific person with your sentient gem. It's in a kind of a overarching type or something like that. So that's why we don't have an Abbott gem or a Vela gem or something like that. That's not how they work. So a Hawthorne one, no. But getting Cindy Robinson to do another one, for sure. I think that's Cindy, right? I don't know which quest I want to do. Why don't we do... Let's go to Bamboo Grove. A singing sentient gem, though. Sounds like a fantastic idea. I don't know, maybe some folks would find it a little much to have to hear singing all the time. I guess it would really depend as to the caliber of that singing. I could see it being problematic, but I can also see it being pretty awesome. So, I'm down. I'm down for singing as a sentient gem. It'll be the worst. It'll be the worst sentient gem. It's the karaoke guy. Well, so that's the same thing, right? So if you think about a quote-unquote Strahd gem, what are you actually asking for there? You're asking that in-game somehow Strahd would be captured and put into a sentient gem, and you can't do that. Strahd is not a sentient gem. Strahd is still alive, of sorts. Banished, depending on where you are in the story and such. And so you can't really do a Strahd sentient gem. You could do a vampire sentient gem. That maybe sounds kind of like Strahd. But a specific character sentient gem typically is not what we do for these things. It would be tricky, I think, to have some kind of add your own sound to the game system for sentient gems. That would be theoretically doable, but kind of tricky, I think. I'm not even sure how you would do it. There we go. Militia is another one that comes up frequently as in terms of voices we should do. But again, same thing applies. Everything that comes out of any raid should be purchasable with raid runes no matter what. Okay. I don't think I agree. But okay. I think that puts too much impetus on the raid runes being the primary method to... I mean, it would... What would be the point of getting drops? I don't know. I suppose you could debate it. But no is the answer. Most, but not all, raid items will be available for raid runes. We would love more information to be able to identify the, quote, sound bug with Isle of Dread. What we need is to be able to track it to a specific item or a specific source. We had played whack-a-mole with it for a while, of, hey, maybe it's this one, or, okay, well, people were saying it was by the waterfall, so let's update the waterfall audio. And it hasn't solved the problem. So I don't know what the problem is exactly. So further bug reports will absolutely help here. Eventually, we're going to hit on the thing that causes us to be able to figure out what's going on here. But we're not there yet. I also don't hear a lot of people... I mean, I know... there's a few people specifically who are talking about it on the forums, and it occasionally comes up, but it's clearly not a universal issue. Otherwise, in some ways, that would be easier to fix. But sadly, it is not. So please do keep those bug reports coming. Specifically, if you crash in Isle of Dread and you suspect it's an audio issue, as soon as you get back in, get a location stamp on it. Let's see. Yeah, so do /LOC, and it'll give you some text. Make sure to copy that text into the document. It'll help us a lot in being able to figure out what the heck's going on here. So that would be when you get back in, right? As soon as you get back in, just go and hit /loc. It'll give you the position that you were just in on, most likely, presumably. And then use that for the bug report. Otherwise, if you feel like you've got a consistent place where it's happening, like every time I go to this object, the game crashes, that would also be really good information to have. And that could be done in the bug report itself. There's no easy, unfortunate... We've spent quite a bit of time looking at it. And we just don't have a specific culprit, a smoking gun as it were, on it. And we thought we had a couple, and we bring them out, and then people are like, nope, still happening. Which is fine. That just means we didn't get it. But it means that we still have to find what the actual issue is. I'm not even 100% sure that it's an audio issue. Could well be. Sounds like it is. Players report it. It seems like it is. So, I mean, sure, it's probably an audio issue. But what specific file is causing it, or what else in the system might be causing it, I don't know. And I guess if we did know, then we'd have a much... We'd have it fixed by now, I'd think. So the thing about, quote, muting your ambient sounds is weird. And the reason it's weird is that those sounds are still playing even when you have the slider turned down, right? It's just not being actually broadcast to you. But in terms of triggering the audio file and things like that, all that is still happening when you just turn your sound down. So you would think that if it was an issue with an audio file, that it would crash regardless of whether you had the sound on or not. So then that leads one to say, well, okay, so then there must be something about the actual audio properties as they're being sent through your system that's causing the crash. And then what the heck's going on there? Is it a specific DirectX 9, 10, 11, 12 issue? Is it a Windows 7, 10, 11 issue? Is it, something else? Who knows, right? And that's ultimately where we're continuing to look at. So the more info from you, the better. I mean, no one's denying, that you're experiencing what you're reporting. It's just... well, gosh, what does that mean? And then how do you repro it, right? What we ultimately need to do to be able to fix this is to have a reproducible location, file, whatever, where we can cause this crash in an internal or external. I mean, we wouldn't want to do it on live, but a place where we could repro it. And so far that has proven elusive. Couch Ranger is saying that they had their audio issues stop by switching over to not Bluetooth. That's interesting. But then that almost sounds like the issue is more external to DDO, which you would think then would be not just a DDO specific issue, right? Yeah, Turf RPG. I did talk about the transfer to Orion and Sorlona earlier on in the show. You can catch that later on when you watch the playback. But it'll be opening up in the near future, assuming that everything that we think we've discovered over the past week or so proves fruitful. But we'll have more. You'll know more soon. What am I doing? Am I supposed to go here? No. All right. It always happens when a raptor comes on the screen. Well, that's worth looking at too. You know. Problem, of course, being that we have lots of players playing and fighting raptors without having this happen to them. But that means maybe it's a specific graphics card or setting, or could be anything. Well, it couldn't be anything. Could be a plethora of things. So, Air Maiden is suggesting that for high Reaper point achievements, we should give out cosmetic items. I know that I had talked about that in the past, that I think there's a question about whether players would feel that a cosmetic item for achieving, say, 200 Reaper points was of particular interest to them. And then also, do we really want to support and encourage players to hit 200 Reaper points, right? And I think the answer to that is a pretty strong no. Not that we discourage it or anything, but, you know, how much do we really want people to go above and beyond than what the system is intended to handle? I think rather than trying to, you know, solve the problem by making it worse, essentially, by just sort of keep going down this redonkulous track, I think a better system is probably to take a more holistic look at our Reaper Point system as it debuted, with an acknowledgement of, well, when it debuted, there was never intended to get more than maybe, what, however many points to max out the trees. And then beyond that is just wasted effort, essentially, by design. And yet players have felt that they enjoyed the Reaper system enough, or just otherwise played it enough, that they wanted to hit 150, 200 points, etc. I also did talk about VIP earlier there. Dinkest Skittle. And so you can go back and hear what I had to say about it then. Because you've got different groups of people, right, with Reaper points. It's like, well, I have chosen to earn, say, 174, 156. Yeah, 156 is max. I've chosen to get 174, 200, whatever. Give me something for the effort I already did. And then there's a group that's like, well, if you make it so that there's something good to get at 200, then you're telling everyone to get to 200, and I don't want to get to 200. Because the points really stop having value at 156. And some folks may enjoy that, some might not. But I think you would want to be careful by what message you'd be sending by debuting things at those tier levels. Especially when it's kind of a problem to begin with. The problem being that perhaps we should have had a cap back when we implemented it, back in the day of 156. Next, how about... There we go. Trials of the Triceratops. I think there's a lot of good ideas, both from the community and just amongst the team, as to various things that we could do to improve the overall Reaper difficulty system. And as with anything, that kind of work needs to be prioritized, scheduled, considered, implemented, iterated on, get lots of feedback on, and everything else. Hard to say when or if it might happen, right? At this point. I think there's a wide acknowledgement, though, amongst the team that there's certainly more we could do to improve the Reaper play experience for players who already have a vast number of Reaper XP points and want something for that. I think Sev's even talked about it occasionally during Q&As and such as well. Trying not to fall off the cliff. Not like it matters. I could. I need to go and find these last few. Every now and then I just kind of click on these Ghost Flame journals just in other things, just in case I don't have them, because I'm close. I've got all 12 of the 12 rares, 13 of the 16 Dread Explorers, 18 of the 20 Vecna things, and 15 of the 20 Ghost Flames. And so I got a little to do yet. But because of the random nature of it, I haven't really gone through and tried to make it all work yet. Snowball fight arenas. That seems like something we should be able to do. I feel like we should be able to do that someday. Our other game, The Lord of the Rings Online, has player-to-player snowball fights. It's in a festival there, their kind of winter festival. They have that. They have a snowball fight. So that means we've got the snowball kind of effects and animations and all that sort of thing. You can't always just bring things over, right? So I don't want to say that, well, we do it there, we could do it here. But at least the bones for it kind of exist elsewhere. And so it seems like something we might be able to do on the DDO side. I'd love to see it myself, I really would. Why not? Who doesn't want a good snowball fight? Well, then of course you're going to have the wizard who's like, fine, ice ball. I'll get you a snowball. About the size of a pickup truck. Well, I mean, someone's saying basically, why should I keep... What would be the point of playing the game after you have all past lives and Reaper points? Because you enjoyed the game, presumably at that point, right? I mean, gosh, I hope you'd enjoy the game if you went that far through it. To your wider point, though, about, we always want to have things to strive for, work for, and do. That's on us to try to continue to deliver compelling content and crafting systems and item upgrade systems and things like that that might supplement the things that you've already done that most other folks have not regarding, say, past lives and Reaper points. You always want to give people things to do. And I think there's also an acknowledgement that especially in the MMO world, right, you're going to have some people who are able to put in the time that it takes to go beyond. So the existence of one person having basically done everything you know, can't always be then assumed that everyone has been able to do that, right? And the answer might also well be, well, let's give them more things to do related to Reaper XP and past lives. And I think that we do see that a little bit when we do release new things that apply to past lives. Make you earn another class, for example, or something like that. Someone's saying we should do away with Reaper points altogether. I bet that would be a very popular change. People will love it. Let's just get rid of all your Reaper stuff. Totally cool, right? But sure, that's certainly an option. You want a poison named greatsword or great axe named item? Yes, I do think there would be a possibility for more poison effects on future named items. That would ultimately be a great suggestion to bring up during... How would I stop healing the undead, huh? What was I going to say now? That'd be a great thing to bring up on Lamania feedback. Just say, yo, on a poison named greatsword. See if you can get that into the ear of one of the loot devs. What am I missing here? Is there a lever? No? Am I thinking of the wrong door? This must be the wrong door. No? Oh, lever. Oh, this one? Nope. There is a lever. I'm just not seeing it. Okay. By the torch near the cell. Oh, yes. Thank you. I don't know that I want to commit either Tolero or Sev on a time frame for the Q&A. It'll be very soon. We were talking about it today, about when we should do it, but we've got some schedules to balance around. And so I don't know if it'll be next week or the week after, or if it'll be a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Tuesday. I don't know yet. But I would actually expect it to be Severlin for our next Q&A, and then we'll have Tolero on at some other session here. No, I have been so someone's asking about my 3D mini printing. I have been so busy in real life this past couple of weeks that I have not had time to do any 3D printing. I had done a little bit. This was actually over the holiday break though. And then I kind of, just because I'm an absolute amateur who doesn't know what the heck he's doing whatsoever, as are most people when they're starting 3D printing. Um, I kind of messed up my FEP, which is some kind of weird plastic square sheeting that the ultraviolet light shines through. It's worn out. I kind of scratched it up and put some dents and things in it. And you don't really want to 3D print with a busted FEP because it can cause you all sorts of problems. And so I've got a replacement that's being mailed to me, but it hasn't arrived yet. There's technically nothing stopping me. It's not so busted I can't use it. So I might do a test print this weekend, but I just haven't had time at all this past week. Between work hours and other things happening in real life, I just have not had time. But I do have plans. I do have plans to do some resin 3D mini printing specifically. And I'm going to show that stuff off on stream. I can't not. Assuming it works out. It's a skill, though. It is, someone had described it to me when I was expressing some early frustration with trying to get this thing up and running. It's like, why can't I get it working? I might, you buy this thing and then you got to start worrying about, millimeter thickness layers and the speed of your retraction of your kind of main platform and everything like that. And how are you supposed to know all this stuff? And it's like you're delving into a rule set that's got a lot of books and reading on it. But it's true. Someone had said, the learning to 3D print is, if you're going to 3D print, it's like a hobby, and you gotta learn the tips and tricks of the trade, and it takes a little while, and you are going to make a bunch of mistakes. And of course, I suppose it makes total sense that way. It's not that we're not at the point where you can just sort of buy a 3D printer and then download a file off the internet, hit print, and call it done. But oh boy, when you first open that 3D printer box and you're all excited to get to 3D mini printing, and then you try to print the test print and it's all goopy and weird because of the thing that didn't work, it can be pretty frustrating. You're kind of like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? But I think I pretty much got it. I'm also trying to learn to, because one of the big things about 3D resin printing for miniatures in particular is you don't quite get the same level of banding and just kind of layering that you do with a extruding 3D printer. That's sort of the main benefit of a resin printer, is it's all nice and smooth and that sort of thing. But in order to do that, you're printing at 0.02 millimeters per layer. And it's a lot. Yeah, Titan, I can understand the desire to want a named poisoned two-hander. That seems cool. Any plans to bring protection from alignment SLA out of the Dark Apostate into an actual spellbook? I have not heard of plans to do that. I like it. I am supportive of me casting the spell. Oh, I didn't need to use the shrine. I too want 3D printed DDO stuff. I may have done a file search for STL within our DDO architecture, but unfortunately it didn't lead to a warehouse of STL files for me to be. I'll print that one and that one. I didn't find any. I don't know. I would have to talk to one of our 3D artists about how we do it. Whether it would even be possible to make a STL out of that stuff. I don't think so. Sadly. But wouldn't that be cool? Chance of turning in non-rare filigrees for a rarer filigree. Yeah, that would significantly lower the rarity of the rare filigree to be able to do something like that. That would turn it from rare to mostly common. But sure. Oh, and we're actually at 5 o'clock, aren't we? Let me just kind of wrap things up here then. Let me recall out and I will show you what I got up to. But yes, I'll let you know if I find anything. Let me get something real quick here. I think I can just reach over and grab it. So this is the one 3D printer thing that I've done so far. It's just a little cat. I don't know if you can see it in this light, but it's just a little happy money cat. And I thought it turned out pretty good. But even then, you can see, I learned some things. Like I accidentally scratched up the back. See how those scratches? That was in the cleaning process. I accidentally scratched it up with the plastic end of a spatula. And if you run your finger along it, you can hear the little crank, crank, crank. Because I had the layer size set to 0.05 rather than smaller. But there we go. Let's see. You would like to see something added to the Nebula Fragment crafting system. Well, hopefully that would be something we could do in the future. Any plans to revisit older content someday? As a matter of fact, I think you're going to want to keep an eye out for the next producer's letter. I think we might have something to say about something like that in the producer's letter here within a couple weeks. So a little bit of a tease there, but let me go through chat before I call it done. So Reaper XP should have capped it. Okay. I don't think maybe someone's got 300 Reaper points. I don't know what the current total is. I know I've seen a 192. There's a few over 200. Yeah. That sounds more reasonable to me than 300. Make an artificer archetype that focuses on fire and force instead of electricity and gives them a tactical detonation SLA. That sounds cool. Cores, you get Reaper points, but cores spent also affect party members who don't possess the core. I think Sev had talked a little bit about that as a brainstorm idea at one point. About the idea of, rather than maybe individual benefits, it would be more in the range of minor group benefits in the future. That could be something we could do with the Reaper point system. I that sounds like another bug report there. Rock Mia's related to items kind of losing information. You can still quote break it depending on how you sort things in and out. Get us some good repro steps in a bug report through help.standingstonegames.com if you're willing. That could be really helpful for us. Quality Crit saying lead minis forever. You know, I happen to be a fan of the old Grenadier lead miniatures. There we go. I have a kitty with me. Let me take care of that and my headphones here as we wrap up the show. I am too a fan of lead minis, but with the reality of living in a world where you can just print off minis like that, pretty nice. Pretty nice. We have not said we wanted to revisit Ravenloft. I mean, ultimately, we want to revisit everything. We have books and books of things that we could do. But we have definitely not announced plans to do that. So, generally, deciding what collectibles go into wilderness areas and how often. I don't know that we have a specific. Maybe there is a internal developer guideline in terms of you should have these many collectible nodes in a wilderness area of X size. But in general, it's broken up by quest level. And so the wilderness area would roughly contain the presumably lowest band of that quest level if it goes cross level. Otherwise, it would pretty much just be the collectibles you would get from that would be commensurate with the level range of the wilderness area. There may be a few times where wilderness areas cross into various collectible tiers, and I would presume that we default to the lower tier rather than a higher tier for wilderness areas, because you don't want it to be way easier and faster and better to get than, say, from a quest. So roughly it has to do with level of the content. And in terms of which crafting ingredients drop on that level of the content, it's supposed to largely correlate to the Caneth crafting that you can use it for, when applicable. And then in terms of raw numbers, I assume that there is some kind of guideline as to how many collectible nodes they should put into a space, but I don't personally know that. All right, that is going to wrap it up here then with Fridays at 4. Thank you so much for watching, meowing, and wanting to go outside. I will see you next Friday with more stuff, including potentially a chat with someone. We'll see. Probably not next Friday, now that I'm thinking about it. We'll see. We'll see how things go. But either way, I will announce when we've got Sev on our Twitch channel here in the near future. And then got producers' letters and a whole lot more happening. Next week, Lamania 2 archetypes that we'll have more about next week. Have fun, everyone. Hope you have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you again soon.